What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Kino Eye.
The only radio show worth $11. So, the double feature that we had today, the theme, I think, is...
California.
Deep
Throat, actually. I upon watching both of these, I think the connection that I'm going to make is deep throating.
Yeah, and these movies are Southland Tales by...
Richard Kelly, written and directed.
And Licorice Pizza by the
Paul
one
Thomas
and only
Anderson.
PTA.
Yeah.
So, it's your boy Andy. I don't know anything about movies. My friend Ro forces me to watch these, and we're going to argue about them.
Yeah. I'm excited. I detest all of your opinions. And I don't respect you, and so I'm excited to come out here and be able to debate you. The battlefield of ideas. What do they call it?
Yeah, the marketplace of ideas.
Marketplace of ideas. And it's not a marketplace, it's a battlefield.
Well, and speaking of marketplaces versus battlefields, I think that really summarizes Southland Tales. Which,
is that what we're starting with?
That's what we're starting with.
Okay.
Because we need to get this out of the way while I still have brain power left to talk about it. So there's two cuts of this movie floating around. We've seen both of them at this point. There's the theatrical cut, which sucks.
I think it's awesome and epic. It makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense, the theatrical cut. So Andrew hates it because Andrew needs order and Andrew needs to understand. But Andrew's a plot cell and I'm more of a vibe chat.
But I think the Cannes cut is kind of the best of both worlds because it has the vibes and still I have a flow chart written down of the notes.
For those of not watching along with us on the live recording of the podcast, Andrew has like if you guys know the meme, the Always Sunny Charlie, he has the cork board. Andrew has a diagram drawn out,
right,
connecting every little piece of this movie.
So I guess to just like give you a general idea of what this movie is remotely like, it just is what it felt like to be alive in post 9/11 pre-recession America.
Yeah, no, because I think like we're the perfect generation for this movie because I don't know about you. I was born in 2001. I was born May of 2001. So my first memory actually is of 9/11.
I don't believe you.
No, I remember I was only a couple months old. And I remember my first words. We saw the plane hit the towers, and I looked up at my mom and I said, "The world's never going to be the same." That's the first thing I ever said.
You're just like Boxer Santeros.
I'm just like Boxer Santeros. I'm literally Pilot Abilene.
Yeah, so what was interesting to me reading some of the reviews about this one is how many people called it prophetic in like a way that people call Idiocracy a documentary.
See, I've never seen Idiocracy. I know that, what is it, like eugenicist? What is this?
Well, I mean, yeah, you can make an argument that people who say that are kind of eugenicist or that the movie had those kind of vibes. But like, what was interesting to me is kind of the authenticity of a lot of this through all of these weird groups of people and these weird vibes that don't make any sense because Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is just acting like this amnesiac little scary man, and he's like
he's got a career-defining performance.
Yeah, he's got these like steepled fingers, and he looks so scared and bug-eyed like all the time. It's so weird seeing him like this.
He's so feeble,
right?
Until he gets machismo at the end and starts drinking all the
becoming
beers.
A pimp. But there are some interesting things going on. There's a lot of commentary about like government interference. I guess it's kind of a play on the Patriot Act, but it's about like tracking people through cyberspace. And I have no idea how this relates to the overall plot of the movie, but that was kind of a prophecy. This thing is happening. A lot of social media sites are talking about tying all of your accounts to your real life government ID. Yeah. That's being considered in California at press time. So
we're looking at you, Elon Musk.
Yeah, literally.
This is a call out. It's really surprising watching this movie now and watching a comprehensible cut. It's seeing how like this was made in 2006. It takes place in 2008, and a lot of the stuff that's going on in this movie it's just kind of happening right now.
Yeah.
Everything. It's just a lot of it has to do with voter fraud. Which
was really funnily represented. I have a list of motifs for this movie because motifs are going to be very important to our entire discussion today.
Yeah.
Appendages are a big motif in that. In the very opening scene, we're learning about like the rise of
Trier,
yeah. So we saw the rise of Trier to power, and they're like trying to take like a finger from this guy to represent
the 6-inch error of margin.
Right. And then later on, you learn that the neo-Marxists are stealing people's severed thumbs to influence the election, which I think is hilarious, knowing kind of the margin of wins that politicians have. The amount of thumbs you need to steal to meaningfully commit voter fraud is ridiculous.
So there's a lot of like organizations in this movie. You got the German company Trier, which is kind of just, they're just paying everybody. They're paying the neo-Marxists. They're paying U.S. Ident, which is the mass surveillance, the American surveillance. They've also what are they, like, corporatized all of law enforcement, and so it's like all law enforcement and surveillance all under one.
What was it? The Urban Pacification Unit, which I think is a really funny organization,
run by John Lovitz, who is he's playing a scary cop.
He's so scary. He's literally so scary.
And it's so funny that it's him, because he has his little stupid little voice and his stupid little. He has these. They all have these like very like 2000. What kind of sunglasses would you describe? That everybody had. I don't know, like the early aughts.
Yeah, big old ones.
So basically, a nuclear bomb goes off in Texas in 2005 on July 4th, and that's basically, I think, like the 9/11 analog.
Right.
I guess.
Right.
And then the rest of the movie takes place in 2008. Kind of everything's gone to shit. We follow 3 characters. We follow The Rock, playing Boxer Santeros, who's an actor who has amnesia. He doesn't know what's going on anywhere, and he is dating Krista Now, who is a porn star, who's trying to like readjust into, like, she wants to be taken more seriously. She's trying to do a new
by going into reality TV.
She's going into reality TV. She's doing pop music about teen horniness. And together they have written a script that do they know that it predicts the end of the world? Or
no, I don't think that's ever clearly established, because
how aware they are of its importance,
right? And because it becomes very, very vague in ways that we'll get into, reality versus fantasy of the characters.
And then there's also Sean William Scott's character, Roland and Ronald Taverner. Ronald, I guess, is this cop who is being used by the neo-Marxists. They're trying to frame a racist cop shooting, to, I guess,
destabilize
U.S. ident,
right?
Because it's, this big election's happening, and also like it's because it's a presidential election, and the guy who's running for vice president is the husband of the woman who runs U.S. ident, and so I guess shaming them would really disrupt his election. There's a lot of fingers and a lot of pies.
So many fingers.
Which is something that I really like about this, is just everything is affecting everything.
You have to be along for the ride, otherwise you're not going to have a good time.
And it's like, I've watched it 3 times now, and it's like, at this point, like, and especially with watching this can cut, I think I kind of like, it's easier for me to understand everything, but like on a first watch, holy
it's
shit.
So awful. It ruined my day the first time I got shown this stupid movie.
Yeah, no.
But I enjoyed it the second time around.
And it sticks in, even if you hate it, it sticks in your brain. There's just something about it that you can't forget.
It's the mood, it's the vibe, it's the way that the characters are acting. Like, obviously everything going on screen is stupid, but it's kind of like Freddy Got Fingered, where you can tell, despite all of the insanity going on, that someone's thinking, or like people are actually acting in this. And I think it's a really interesting position to be in, because it's not going to be satisfying as a quote unquote traditional narrative where you can track motivations and alignments, because there's so many double and triple crosses. The neo-Marxists are trying to stage this shooting, but then they're suddenly not, because there's one bad actor in the neo-Marxist group who paid off the random cop that shows up.
John Lovitz. Who's in love with the neo-Marxists as well.
Right.
It's like an unrequited love, like F plot.
Right. You literally need a string and corkboard to link all of this stuff together.
Because he's such a minor part of the movie, but he still has like the explicit characterization of with Justin Timberlake's fantastic narration.
Oh my god.
He sounds like an old Southern belle.
Yeah, like I didn't know it was him at first.
When we first started this, because I've seen the theatrical cut twice, I've never seen the can cut, and so I was like, when we first started it, I was really trying to like parse out like what's different about this, and it's been like a year since I last saw it, and the narration starts, and I was like, oh, this woman wasn't narrating last time. It was Justin Timberlake. He was narrating the movie, and it took me so long to realize, like, oh my god, I forgot that Justin Timberlake just sounds like this. He's like, this is the way the world ends, sweetie.
Really intense and harrowing performance from him overall.
He's great. He's really good.
There's like a whole subplot about like some made up drug, and he takes some blood. Yeah, like the specific kind of like, do you bleed?
This movie predicted Batman versus Superman.
It predicted a lot of things. And he has this whole like segment where he's it's like a music video, and it's just
best part of the movie.
It's really good and really just like out of complete nowhere, and the way it ends with his just face falling, and he has this 1,000-yard stare as he's like coming down from this high is really, really good, and it makes it all the worse that so much else in the movie is stupid and bad, because I feel like the natural defense for a movie like this, with things not making sense and the vibes not being good, is, oh, this is just emulating what it was like to be alive at the time. And I think that's kind of a cowardly way out, ultimately. As much as I liked the movie, I feel like if you can handwave, these basic things of people's motivations being clear aren't necessary because the Patriot Act was a bad idea, probably. I feel like that's kind of a easy way out for a movie to take.
Well, I just think like something that I really like about this movie is I feel like it's been I can't remember a movie since this that like has been like so angry at kind of like our modern culture, like, you know, this American late capitalism like eating its own tail,
right? And,
you know, kind of like there's a really big there's a line early on in the movie on Krista's talk show where, you know, that one actress is talking about you know, violence and porn don't mix, and like I think this idea of like how like war's been commodified, and you know, everything, you know, it's all under one umbrella. It's all like, you know, really everything is run by this one company, right. in the movie.
All the sex and the war and the technology,
you know, both sides of the, you know, extreme political spectrum. They're all under this one.
And that does nullify a little bit of my argument about the motivations, because if one person or one entity is influencing everything, then I guess it doesn't matter what the motivations are, because we're just watching idiots throw themselves at each other. But yeah, the anger throughout is very, very interesting. There's for all of the insanity that goes on, I think it's interesting how subtle this movie is. I was telling you while we were watching it, this is like one of the most hilarious movies that I'm not laughing at once. Like there are all these just ridiculous scenes, like when the what was it, Zora, the leader of the neo-Marxists, goes to an illegal weapons dealer who runs out of an ice cream truck to buy blanks, and then tries to pay with a personal check, and then beats the shit out of him and takes guns and then leaves. Hilarious scene, hilarious concept. Didn't laugh. There's cartoon lightning when Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is confronted with his old family before he got amnesia. Hilarious, but like I'm not laughing.
Oh, I'm laughing. I'm chuckling. I think this movie is hilarious.
There's just so much I guess emotion under the surface here that's very interesting to kind of crack into.
It's very earnest.
Which you wouldn't think when they're trying to get Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson to say pimps don't commit suicide.
Yeah, but pimps don't commit suicide.
I guess not. Earnestly, they don't.
Yeah, no. Yeah, no. It's just, it really just feels like you know, with how movies are nowadays, with things like the Mario movie and Marvel, you know, just the death of culture. Like, this movie is like, if you could show the death of culture, like I think the events of this movie is what, like, just the death of culture look like. There's this ad for cars in the movie, sold by Trier, and it's this like really awful, like just horrible to look at commercial. It's like this really ugly CG, and one car like mounts the other and grows a penis out of its tailpipe, and then the other one's tailpipe turns into a fleshlight. Yeah, and they fuck each other, and
it's so bad. It's so
coming
bad.
Soon.
Right.
It's lighting up the same parts of you. It's lighting up the part of your brain, you know, that like, you know, like buy this thing, you know, sell this thing, while also lighting up the part of your brain that makes you horny, while also, you know, it's being sold by this, you know, weapons company that you know, they're trying to make this what like quantum power source,
fluid karma, which has to mean something.
It's like some like wireless power source. Which is also advertised in the car commercial, because that's what like wakes the cars up or whatever.
Right.
You're just overwhelmed by the excess.
Right. Yeah. Excess.
And I think that's the only thing, you know, it's like, you know, if you're doing something that is, you know, tackling, you know, late capitalism in a very surrealist way, like it that can only really be shown in just pure, just disgusting excess.
Yeah. So I mean, and in that way it succeeds, and the banality that it conveys this with, like the stupid cheap CGI commercial, or they had on Venice Beach, like random restaurants in Venice Beach, whole ass sniper turrets set up, like, and then like on the physical beach they had like it was a lifeguard tower, but the guy has artillery on it.
You just have sniper set up everywhere.
It's so ridiculous and so understated at once that I thought it was kind of like a dream, or like not diegetically happening. I thought like it was just I don't know, like the narrator being some kind of fairy off in the distance and coming and going, like that kind of thing. But no, we learn when the neo-Marxists have a shootout in Venice Beach for some reason, that these are very, very real, and they just shoot indiscriminately into crowds of people at the first sign of a disturbance, and that's a really interesting like the banality of evil. Like, this is the banality of a fascist society that's completely devoid of culture.
No, it's scary, and that's what, you know, Pilot Abeline's doing. Is he the one that kills the I'm gonna kill myself if you don't let me second?
Yes,
girl?
Yes, that's the one. There's a minor character, all things considered, who works for US Ident.
Did fan culture like that even exist?
That's what I was going to ask you.
2006.
Because this is textbook limerence and parasocial relationships. Yeah. She is like working for US Ident, and they have a copy of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's screenplay for some reason that has to do with the end of the world. Yeah. She reads it and becomes obsessed with it, and thereby Boxer Santeros, which, like you said, I don't know if that kind of thing was around. I mean, fan culture has existed for as long as there have been fans. So I mean, maybe someone was doing this to like Elvis or James Dean or something.
John Lennon.
Or John
John Lennon, I was told that I needed to kill you in this alley.
But that's another thing I meant by internally prophetic, where what's her name? Starla?
Yeah.
She calls Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and starts reciting lines from the movie to him, and this is like his act 3 or whatever pinch to where he starts moving towards the Trier people who take him up on the airship where the rest of the movie happens. But then she physically confronts him on Venice Beach, back to the sniper tower thing.
Yeah.
And again, with the Freddy got fingered comparisons, she takes out a gun, puts it to her head, and is like, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, take off your pants now or I will kill myself. which
real.
Is that a part of the screenplay? Did Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson write that in? Is that what we're supposed to understand?
I don't think it's part of the screenplay. I think
she goes off script.
I think her human desires take over.
Okay.
And she just, especially just in his presence. I mean, are you telling me that if you just saw The Rock and you had a gun on you, that you wouldn't?
She gets brutally gunned down in the middle of a crowded beach
by Justin,
which I think is so interesting. How that entire arc went from sad to sadder to,
and that kind of kickstarts the riot that happens at the end,
right?
Which is a
lot.
It is a lot.
So
targets get looted.
Yeah. I didn't understand at first, like, what was going on, because so there's a tape of the shooting showing that it was
of the shooting with John Lovitz's character.
Right.
If you haven't seen this movie, there's no way that you're following along with anything we're saying. There's no way. Watch it before listening to the episode.
So there's a tape with the shooting, and that gets stolen from the neo-Marxists by Krista now. And then she and her little friends have to put it back in a neo-Marxist drop-off for some reason.
Yeah.
Why?
She wants to puts it in the neo-Marxist. Why does she do it? I don't remember why she does it. There's a lot of shit.
There's a lot of shit going on, and we can't follow. But anyways, they try to they're trying to drop off this tape that will help them destabilize the politics of the world.
Yeah, because Boxer Santeros is also the son-in-law of the vice president. Or
the vice president to be
elect, and I guess he hasn't been elected yet. And the CEO or whatever of US IDEN. So he's very important. We haven't talked at all about Roland / Ronald Tavener.
We haven't mentioned them because they're such passive characters. It opens up and he's just like drugged out of his mind going along with this neo-Marxist thing.
Yeah, but there's this like fear that I think is in his character that I guess is also in Boxer Santeros, but he's kind of just an idiot. So to clarify, Roland / Ronald, it's one guy. Basically, before the events of the movie happen, Roland and The Rock go through this rip in space time that's out near like the Hoover Dam, and it like sends them 69 minutes.
Right, specifically 69.
69 minutes back in time. 69 is a very important thing in this movie too.
It comes up a lot.
Proposition 69. There's a lot of which I think is the thing that
it's the US
united all like the law enforcement and everything.
Yep.
But sends them 69 minutes back in time, which then means that there are two versions of them.
Right.
But The Rock was supposed to go through the portal, but Roland wasn't supposed to go through, and so they blow up the past version of The Rock, but they don't blow up the past version of Roland. So there's two Rolands out there and one The Rock that has traveled 69 minutes through time. And so there's two of they talk about this. They really don't talk about it much until the end of the movie. You kind of think they're just twins, but it's this one human with two souls, kind of in two separate vessels, and they talk a lot about like what happens if they shake hands.
And that's the thing in Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's screenplay is it ends in a handshake. That's how the world ends, and that again with the prophecy. Yeah,
and that's how the movie ends, because by the end of it, they the whole riots happening, and The Rock is on this Zeppelin, and you have like this the classic but really fun juxtaposition of all of the poor people down on the ground fighting and dying and you know, being killed by, you know, just these waves of, like, you know, fascist law enforcement coming in, just endless.
Yeah.
And then you have this party of rich people in this Zeppelin high up in the sky, and they're listening to, like, scary Italian Star Spangled Banner.
It was good. I liked it.
No, that's the thing. When it was playing, I was like, okay, this is the exact type of music that Andrew listens to for, like, fun. Andrew wakes up at 6 a.m. and listens to Swans.
And then the dance sequence. I did not like the dance sequence because there's
so Sarah Michelle Gellar, her character's blonde for most of the movie, but at the end she comes in. I don't know why her hair's dyed brown. She, like,
suddenly
it's just brown. Her hair's just brown. But Andrew, so then she has this whole dance sequence. Andrew had no fucking clue that it was Sarah Michelle Gellar at the end of the dance sequence, which is like a couple minutes long, and it's like,
because I was waiting for it to make sense.
And he looks over at me and he's like, "Who is this woman?" And I'm like, "It's Krista." It's Krista, and he just could not recognize it because her hair changed colors.
Yeah, I mean, that was her defining characteristic, as she was blonde.
All white women look the same.
Oh my god! So the handshake happens between these two twin clones.
Yeah, they meet in, like, the ice cream truck.
Right, they meet in the ice cream truck, and the ice cream truck rises up into space. And then there also in the ice cream truck is a drug dealer who doesn't really matter because he shows up at the 75% mark. I mean, he's a sympathetic character enough, but, like, he's just a drug dealer who gets drafted.
Well, he's a vet who is, like, wanting to kill himself, basically.
Well, he's getting drafted. He doesn't want to go back to Iraq. He doesn't want to go to Iraq.
Yeah, but that's the thing, you know, with Roland having his split, because we also learned. So also this movie is parts 4 through 6 of a 6-part story. The first 3 of which are told through graphic novels that I don't even know if you can obtain anymore. I haven't, like.
Aren't they French?
I think maybe the only ones you can get are in France now. Hold on, let me look.
Oh yeah, no, you cannot get these.
Yeah, you could probably get them somewhere. Maybe they're 99 something dollars.
Oh, if you have $100 to drop, you can see the whole Southland Tale saga.
Yeah, no, but basically, Pilot Abilene and Roland served together in Iraq.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this whole story with them or something where I guess somehow Roland accidentally friendly fires on Abilene and fucks his face up, and Roland never really knows how to deal with the guilt of that. And so, you know, him being split as 2 separate people, you have this really, really, really great moment at the end while they're, like, floating in, you know, they're grasping hands, and you have Roland, who is, you know, the vet, and you have Ronald, who is the, you know, the fake racist cop, you know, and you have, you know, Roland repeating over and over, he's just going friendly fire, and Ronald,
it's not your fault.
You know, I forgive you. I forgive you, and I think it was just really powerful.
Yeah,
just having, like.
Very emotional scene.
It's a really emotional scene, and, like, a great performance from Sean William Scott. Like the crazy thing about this movie, I think, you know, a lot of the actors in this give career-defining performances. I'm really bummed out that Sean William Scott hasn't had, like, a career really much after this movie. I mean, he's in, like, some hockey movie. I don't know if that's Goon or something.
Goon?
I don't know. He does great work in this movie because he was really typecast a lot after the American Pie movies. Like that Stifler. He was like, dude, where's my car? Shit like that.
Yeah.
But he's great in this.
And then literally on top of it, you have the dealer guy with the heat-seeking missile standing on the top of this ice cream truck that is now floating in the sky over these riots throughout LA. And he shoots the Zeppelin, and them's the movie.
Yeah, and then, you know, handshake ends the world, I guess.
That's what we're supposed to understand about it anyways. This is an immensely quotable movie.
Yeah,
I think half of your notes were quotes.
Yeah, I think almost all of my notes were quotes. I'm fucking a very large and important man.
Yeah.
I love the bit where what's his name? The guy running for vice president. He's in an elevator when you first meet him in this cut, and, you know, he has these, like, spy glasses on, and it's this great bit because you're seeing his POV from these spy glasses, and he's looking at the two other people in the elevator, and he's going, "Do I look like a nerd? Do I look fucking stupid? Do I look like a nerd?" And they're going like, "No, you look fine." And then it's this amazing, such a funny cut of, you know, him walking out of the elevator and the reveal of the glasses he's wearing are just the stupidest early aughts. Like they're like tiny, but they like completely wrap around his eyes. Oh, it's so fucking funny.
It was so good. Did you notice a lot of people dying in, on, and around toilets? And do you think that means anything?
Well, there's a lot of earlier on in the movie, you have Amy Poehler and her husband arguing about, because I think they're talking about how it's I think Ronald hadn't been shitting or something
like that.
One of them hadn't been shitting, or maybe both of them, and they're like, "That's fucking weird." Like it'd been like a week or whatever.
Oh yeah,
they hadn't
yeah.
been shitting. They're like, "That's weird," and they're having this like I think you call it like almost like a religious discussion.
Yes,
about,
because
like,
they were impassioned about it. Like it was a
to
weird...
shit is to be human or something, or like to be alive, to be a living creature, and if you don't shit, what are you?
And then it just ends, and you're left wondering.
No, and then
was that a metaphor?
You have another character come in and he goes, "The shit has hit the fan."
Right.
You have
a lot of shit talk.
You know, The Rock giving like a Gendo speech about like the impacts and like the third impact is going or whatever, and it's like but he's talking about, he's calling them baby farts.
Yes. Oh god, that's so bad.
Yeah, you have multiple people die in the toilet. You have the giant toilet sculpture. Eli Roth, the director, much hated by the podcast, Eli Roth, he's only there to get shot on a toilet in the movie, and I think that's great. I think that's more than enough reason to give it 5 out of 5.
So yeah, a lot of things that will just happen in the movie, I have to wonder if they're metaphors or symbols, and I'm worried that there's no answer. It's just, ooh, wasn't it really bad to be alive in the early aughts? And that's the end of the story. So I hope one day to get my hands on the graphic novel, just so I can have a little bit more context into what's going on here.
Oh yeah, I definitely want to get the graphic novel at some point. And that's the thing. I think, regardless of how perfect it is so, is enigmatic the right word?
Yeah,
for
yeah.
It just captures your mind, and it's something like I first saw it like 2-3 years ago or something, 2 years ago, and I've ended up, I realized when we watched this yesterday that I have watched this at least once a year since I first watched it, and I think I will continue to do that. It's just something that...
No, I could definitely watch this again soon. Maybe in a year, but soon cosmically.
Yeah, no, it's just a movie that stays in my mind.
And it stays in your mind in weird ways too. So I saw it a year ago as well, the theatrical cut, and I rewatched the trailer before we watched the can cut just to kind of get a better idea of what I was in for. And I remembered every shot very well, but if you had asked me and showed me them in a vacuum, I wouldn't have been able to put them all in this one movie together. Like it kind of fragments itself, kind of like you're just getting a shotgun blast straight to the chest. It all comes from the same source, but it embeds in you in different ways.
Yeah.
And it's about as pleasant.
Yeah, no, I mean, the first time I watched it, I was stoned out of my mind. And I really didn't, because that was also the theatrical cut. I really want to rewatch that cut because the can cut is definitely cut differently. But it's just been so long since I've seen the theatrical. I can't remember it's definitely cut differently because this cut is so much easier to understand.
Infinitely.
But nothing feels like, at least from my memory of watching the theatrical cut, nothing feels like it's moved too drastically from what I can remember. Nothing feels like it's taken out of the act it was already in.
Yeah.
At the very least.
There was a character that wasn't there.
There's this character played by the camp
Mommy.
director. Yeah, the camp director from Wet Hot American Summer, who I don't think is in the theatrical cut.
Not to my memory, anyways.
And I don't know why she's cut out because she's pretty funny.
Yeah, she's as funny as anyone else.
No, like all of her scenes are just bit scenes. I think there's also more scenes of Kevin Smith's general.
Yeah, I think so. I don't remember him that well.
Talking with her.
Was the him hitting a bong with like a gas mask half on?
Yeah,
was that in the original?
Mask. I don't know. I don't know. I didn't
like
remember
that. I like that shot.
That's awesome. Yeah, that he does that as the world ends, which I think is awesome. I don't know. It's so funny that Kevin Smith is in this movie. There's just so many people. I think every other person in this movie, you're like, oh my god, it's so funny that they're in this.
So many people doing things that you don't expect them to be doing. I mean,
yeah.
The Rock Johnson is probably the biggest.
The Rock Dwayne Johnson.
The Walk Johnson. He like I can't get over it. Like I don't know enough about the guy to really care that much, but it's so funny to me, his character.
From my understanding, this is the performance that convinced him to be boring in every role for the rest of his career, because he did something interesting once in this, and it was received so poorly. And which it's like I've always, whenever I was talking about this movie, even before I'd shown it to you, because I would talk about it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I would always say like, oh yeah, The Rock gives it's like a Nick Cage type performance. It's like really over the top. A lot of people, I think, back when it came out, looked at it as bad, but it is now, I think, been like reappraised. I think this movie has been, reclaimed generally.
Oh yeah,
compared to like it, people hated it when it came out, but I think people generally seem to like it now, which is awesome. I think movies like this, there should be more of them.
Well, maybe there are, and we just haven't come around to them yet.
Yeah, maybe I haven't seen Idiocracy yet, so.
So you say you were going to see it again. Would you recommend it to, like, I guess normal people?
I mean, yeah. I think this is a cool movie to see. Like, it's just, if you want to see something that you've never seen before.
Oh yeah.
I think this is like a really cool experience, and it's like, I mean, I've only ever loved it, but like I feel like whether you love it or hate it, it's a really fun time. This would be like a perfect movie, I think, to like throw on in the background of a party, because like if you just people like passing by the TV, and like each scene is like interesting enough on its own. Like I could definitely imagine myself like on acid.
And anyone just watching it, you're gonna understand it the same amount if you sit there glued to the screen versus if you come back and forth and only get it for one scene.
Yeah, I think I would recommend it to people. It's not a guarantee that you'll like it necessarily, but I don't think it's something that you'll regret seeing.
Yeah, because like, when I first saw it, I was so mad. I did not like this movie at all. It was just not very pleasant for me. So the only asterisk I would add to that is, if you're going to watch this, you need to commit to watching it twice. It doesn't have to be in immediate succession, but you probably aren't going to get remotely enough on your first viewing, because I don't know if it was...
Or at least watch the can cut first.
Right. At least watch the can cut.
It's on the only Blu-ray that you can get of this movie.
I don't know if it was the repetition or the cut, but the second time, I really came around to it. I would say I like this movie now, and that might be lukewarm, but given the fact that I hated it a day ago...
you might love it on your third watch.
I might I might love it on my third watch, and I intend to have one. So if you're going to watch this, you just got to be willing to commit 5 hours of your life at some interval.
I think it's just a really cool, very transgressive piece of art, and we don't get a whole lot of that anymore. And seeing something like this with The Rock, I think is just. I
mean, even Amy Poehler is kind of weird seeing her in a movie that's interesting nowadays, anyways.
But yeah, I would definitely recommend Southland Tales. I didn't know if you should do like a rating thing. I don't rate movies. I don't know. Like giving the numbers, but Andrew likes giving things like 7.3s and whatever.
No, I like taking stars off for arbitrary reasons.
Yeah.
So okay.
But I would say this is like, to me, a near perfect. I would give this a 5 out of 5.
So 4 stars. I took 1 star off for someone saying ATM machine rather than ATM.
Oh yeah, Andrew watched Spider-Verse, his favorite movie, and they talk about how you can't say ATM machine because it's redundant.
Wait, did they really talk about that in
Spider-Verse?
Spider-Verse?
Movie. Andrew's favorite movie across
My
the
favorite
Spider-Verse.
movie. Oh my god, I love it so much.
Let's turn the rest of the episode into hating on that.
So anything else you've seen recently worth talking about?
Things I have seen recently. I watched, since I like both of the movies that we're talking about today. I guess you do too, for the most part. But
For the most part,
I'll talk about some things I watched recently that I don't like, because I have an issue with watching too many things that I like, I think. And I recently watched Travis Scott's Circus Maxima.
okay.
Which sucks. It's crazy because there's a bunch of guys directing this, because it's basically like the first like 30 or so minutes is like just 3 or 4 music videos cut together, between like him doing like a therapy session shot by Harmony Korine, and then the last like 40 something minutes are just him doing a concert alone in a room, and it kind of sucked. And it's crazy because he has Nicholas Winding Refn of Drive fame.
Okay.
Directing one of the music videos. He has Gaspar Noé of, I don't know if you've heard of,
No.
from like Climax and Enter the Void and Irreversible, stuff like that. And their music videos are good in that, but the movie kind of sucks. And Cobweb, that's a horror movie that just came out that everybody on Twitter, or at least from what I saw on Twitter, everybody was saying was like really good. Because I don't know what it's been with horror this year, but I feel like there have been so many horror movies that have come out where everybody goes like, oh my god, this is the best horror movie of the year, and then it's just fine. You got like Talk to Me, everybody's doing that about it. It's just fine. And Cobweb sucked. Skinamarink kind of sucked.
Yeah, I just saw Skinamarink. I hated it. I don't like saying I hated it because
I respect it immensely.
Right.
I don't like it.
Well, yeah, and that's kind of my feelings as well. Is like, you can tell he meant to do everything that you're seeing on the screen. Like that. I don't believe that anything was done out of incompetence.
Yeah.
But I hated it. Bad shots that are on purpose and bad shots that aren't on purpose are still bad shots. You can only add so much film grain to a shot of a ceiling. And it just, I didn't know what I was looking at half the time in a bad way. I know the point is that you kind of can argue with yourself about it, because the point is you don't know what you're looking at half the time.
Yeah.
But it really failed in, like, obviously it failed in character work for me, and that's good. That's a big part of a narrative.
See,
I would argue.
Plot cell. Andrew.
Yeah, I'm a plot cell. I'm a character cell.
Vibe chat. It's about the journey, not the destination, bro.
Okay, well,
I didn't like Skinamarink either. I'm lukewarm on it. It's a movie. I like to see what that Kyle Edward Ball, whatever his name is, but what he does.
I saw Cloverfield. I liked Cloverfield. Found footage is not the best genre in the world,
unless it's Noroi.
The Curse.
That's a great movie.
But like, if you have to do it, it should probably be something like Cloverfield,
or any Koji Shiraishi movie. Like The Cult and everything. Those are all cool.
Those are fun. Yeah, I mean, I don't really have too much. I mean, it's obviously not like a great art movie, but it was. I was expecting.
Yeah, we only talk about art movies here, so
I was expecting it to suck, is what I mean. So I was just happy that it didn't.
We're gonna talk about real art. Nothing.
Well,
we'll never talk about Transformers.
Oh my god, I want to see the new Transformers so bad. That's gonna be one of our episodes. Just you wait.
Oh yeah, sure.
But all right,
we could watch The Last Night.
I never want to watch that movie again.
Do you want to watch Rise of the Beast, but not The Last Night?
Yes, because I can't watch it again. The Rise of the Last Night was fun, but it was also 5,000 hours, and I can't do it again.
Okay. Whatever.
Anyways, so speaking of art films, Licorice Pizza is a work of art. I think we both agree that this is a really, really good movie.
This is a great movie. an absurd amount of bias for Paul Thomas Anderson, I will say.
I don't care.
He like got me into like There Will Be Blood was one of like my first like favorite movies ever. Or at
Oh,
least,
really?
Or at least it was like before I had seen There Will Be Blood, I would just like name a random movie that I liked as like if anyone ever asked my favorite movie. But There Will Be Blood was the first movie I ever saw where I was like, this is my favorite movie. So I love all of his. I think they're all amazing, and this one is just as good as a lot of the others.
Yeah, so it follows the story
Of Cooper Hoffman's character,
Right.
Gary Valentine.
Gary Valentine. What
Great
a name.
Great name. There's a lot of really good names in this.
Yeah, so he's like just aged out of being a child star.
Yep.
And we'll talk about how well that's handled, because it's handled in really, really compelling ways.
We tried to write notes for this, and both of us wrote like 2 things because we were just so. It's like I don't want to analyze this movie. You know, it's just like I just want to sit and like be in. I want to experience. With it.
Yeah. But he
but the first thing you wrote, here.
Yeah, he flirts with and eventually wins over the affections of Alana, who is just Alana Haim in real life.
Yep.
Both first-time actors, you said, right?
Yeah.
Which is insane.
From what I understand it, and Cooper Hoffman playing Gary, he's Philip Seymour Hoffman's son, and right. Philip Seymour Hoffman is in a lot of Paul Thomas Anderson movies. He's like he was one of PTA's favorite actors to work with.
Really?
Like the way that Paul Thomas Anderson, I wish I'd pulled some of these interviews up to like show you before we did this. But like the way that Paul Thomas Anderson would talk about, like, and I think that's another really beautiful thing about this movie. But like, you know, Paul Thomas Anderson like was in love with Philip Seymour Hoffman. Just the way that he talked about him, like the way, like it's kind of like how, you know, with Oppenheimer coming out recently. I know this has been in the zeitgeist, but the way that like Nolan is with Cillian Murphy, how like he just saw him in a movie once, and he like falls in love with him.
Yeah.
But like that was Philip Seymour Hoffman for Paul Thomas Anderson, and so, and you know, with them being such close friends in real life, you know, right. Cooper Hoffman grew up around PTA, and so for PTA to do this coming of age story about, you know, 70s San Fernando Valley, where I think it's the exact same place where PTA grew up, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not gonna fact check that, so
just trust us.
Just trust us. It's if he didn't grow up there, he grew up close. But yeah, you know, but this is very personal, you know, kind of story for PTA. This is, you know, about a time that because you know he's done 70s, you know, California before with Boogie Nights.
Yeah,
but never through the eyes of a child, and you know, it's just. But to have Cooper Hoffman in this role, I think is really, really sweet. And that he's got it. Like it doesn't feel like nepotism. No, he absolutely has the gene.
Owns it.
He has the gene. No, they're great playing off each other.
Oh yeah. In a way, like Alana is much older than they're
both older than what they're playing. I think because
sure,
Alana's like
the guy.
30.
Yeah. How old is Gary Valentine's actor, actually?
I'm going to Google that because I don't know, but I'm sure he was older than 15.
In the movie, there's a very big age gap, and you almost forget how taboo it is just because of how well they portray these two characters.
He's 20.
Okay. So not super crazy, all things considered. However, it so that kind of permeates everything, and it makes a lot of the romance a little bit harder to digest, but in ways that make the movie more interesting.
The thing is, it's really interesting because this movie ends on a very romantic note, which was very controversial for a lot of people because it's like, oh, it's you know glorifying pedophilia or whatever. But the movie really does its damnedest to drive home throughout, you know, everything leading up to that this relationship is doomed to fail.
Right.
Like it is going to self-destruct and implode because you have these two characters who are, you know, and I think that's what's so interesting about this is, you know, you have, you know, Cooper Hoffman who's Gary, who's, you know, growing out of the child acting, and he's got, you know, one foot where he feels like a kid, and, you know, but he's also, you know, just because of the industry that he's in and the time that he's in, he's a straight hustler.
He's such a hustler.
That he's, you know, kind of forced to grow up at the same time. He's neither a child nor is he an adult.
Right.
And it's the same thing with Alana. With she's kind of stuck in this like early 20s kind of feeling of you don't you're not a kid, but you don't feel like an adult, and you have all of these situations that they keep getting thrust in these with these adults that you're kind of shown like, oh, these adults, issues and everything, they're just as childish as I mean, you said they were like different versions of Gary in the future. Yeah, no, a lot of the male characters that you run into have and it's so interesting because all of like the older male characters are being very predatory towards Alana, and using, positions of power or whatever to come onto her, and that's played off of in a lot of different interesting ways. But they all have like a bit of Gary in them. You have Sean Penn's character. I can't remember the name of his character, but you have Sean Penn, who plays this really famous actor. And Jack Holden, and creeps on Alana, pretty heavily. But he has that like the kind of the swagger, the clout that Gary has. And you have John Peters, who it's so funny that John Peters is in this movie. This movie full of fictional people in 70s and then just California, a real life guy, and then just for some reason the one real life guy PTA throws in there. He's like, I just want John Peters in my movie. But John Peters shows up, and I think you were saying that you thought that he was like the most, at least in the way he spoke, the most like Gary. Yeah, I mean, he calls it out himself. He's like, I can tell that you and I are both from the streets. And like they have this weird kind of like player meets player kind of thing. They recognize Gamer each other. Gamer has game. And I really liked his character. He was the way he talked was just so compelling. I could just watch him just monologue to this kid talking about he's gonna strangle his family. Every guy is a piece of shit, and it's what Benny Safdie's partner says at the end of the movie to Alana. They're all shits, aren't they? Yeah, that kind of sums it all up. It's this relationship that they have, it has allowed them both like kind of the comfort of being a kid with the excitement of the adult world. Yes. And but like it's not permanent. It's gonna end at some point. I mean, you saw it in the oil crisis happening obviously externally to the events of the story. Yeah. But he's at the time Gary's selling water beds for some reason, just because that's his new hustle. Yeah. And then that has to go up like that, and that's not any one character's fault. So it does kind of really toe this line, and I don't even want to like talk about it because it feels like a CinemaSins thing, but I don't know how realistic it is that like these kids are running these businesses and running around like they are. But I don't care because it's really fun. Yeah, no, it's super fun, and I the business is being compared to the relationships, I think is really interesting because he kind of like the way that Gary is with his business, and that's why he's such a great salesman. Is he's very intimate with his product. Like he the way he talks about the waterbeds, the way he is able or talks about himself and is able to sell himself as a product. Right. He's very alluring. He very successfully flirts with with Alana, of course, and with the stewardess on the airplane, but he forms a relationship with each business he makes. But then the moment it's not working anymore, he drops and he moves on to another thing, and it's just going. Eventually that's how they're gonna end up, I guess. Right. But that was so a worse movie would have handled his charm a lot differently, and it goes back to the he's not a child actor anymore, now he's too old. If you're not paying attention, it's hard to tell just how awkward the first scenes in the movie are, where he's like doing an audition. Yeah. Because he's still charming. He's still. I mean, the director tells him you still got it. Right.
he's still acting fine, and he's still compelling as an actor in the world of the story. But you see him in a vest that's like 3 sizes too small for him, and he looks like a total freak. Yeah. And it's a worse director or whatever, worse filmmaker would have had it just be so obvious and so awkward. But the way he told the line, and it kind of permeates the entire thing, it doesn't insist that you understand every single subtlety. A lot of this is very, very human and natural, despite a lot of the larger than life elements that take place.
Yeah. No, I love this movie to death. It's just like it so well captures, you know, the feeling of like falling in love when you're like a kid.
Yes.
And like it's not real, and like not, you know, not necessarily, because again, like it's not, the movie is not supporting their relationship being good. But this movie gives me butterflies. I remember, you know, watching the trailer for it before it came out, and when it first came out, I was wanting to see it so bad. I watched the trailer over and over and over again because that trailer was just so good. And like that trailer, to me specifically, I would describe it as like the trailer feels like falling in love.
Oh yeah.
But what's that song that plays, the Bowie song?
Da da da. Gonna be a long time. No? Was it that one?
No.
Or
maybe it is. I don't know.
I think that's an Elton John song.
yeah, that's Rocket Man.
Yeah. Never mind.
With so many, you know, pieces of media trying to go after the nostalgia of like the 70s and 80s, you know, this one does it the best out of anything. It's just, you know, it makes California seem habitable.
Yes, it does. It makes it feel like a small town, which again adds to the unreality, but also adds to the coziness.
Like Alana knows everybody.
Yeah,
Alana's constantly running into people that she's just like, oh yeah, hey.
And they're constantly running into each other, like, hey, serendipitously. Floozy, like... Right. Frisbee. Which is worse than the name Floozy, I think.
No, I think Floozy's worse. I think Floozy's like a...
Yeah, it's a bad.
Yeah.
But anyways, the movie has like a really vignette structure to it, and which
makes it so easy to watch.
Makes it very easy to watch. Makes it harder to parse as a cohesive narrative, though. And I don't know if this comes through editing.
This is you being a plot cell.
This is me being a plot cell.
The vibe Chad comes in.
A lot of things just happen in this movie. Gary gets falsely arrested out of nowhere and just as quickly gets released, and we don't get a full picture in what's going on or what effect that had, why it matters.
There's this really bizarre moment at the end that I love, and the first time I watched it, it kind of like left me with like a bit of a disappointed feeling in my, because I mean I knew nothing about the movie going in. I hadn't wanted to hear anything, and so you get to the end part with Benny Safdie's politician character, and there's this guy introduced with like he's not even given a name, I don't think, just like he has the number 12 on his shirt, and he has like Dahmer glasses on and like a long haircut. He's like a guy in his like late 20s, early 30s or something, and he's just like lurking outside of what is his name, Joel Wax, whatever, his campaign office, and it's like in the background of this last 20 minutes, like the plot of Taxi Driver is happening, because he's really weird, and like Alana calls attention to him, and she goes and confronts him, and he's like really fucking weird. And then you also see him when she goes to meet Joel at a restaurant late that night. He's seen outside of the restaurant, and I think it's implied when because you know he's Joel Wax is gay, and you know he calls Alana there to cover up for his partner being there, you know, so they can act like a couple or whatever. And so, you know, that scene ends with Alana and Joel's partner leaving, and you know, you leave Joel in the restaurant, and that's the last you ever see of him. And it's kind of just implied, I think, that like, because I can see no other use of having this Taxi Driver character in the movie other than just to imply that this guy gets murdered. And I think, you know, something like that, and with the police thing, that also might tie in, because they say that he's arrested for murder, And then the guy gets pulled out and says like, oh, that's not him. So maybe that has to do, I don't know, but you don't see it coming, you can't see it coming. But it just happens, and it can end a relationship, or with the it can end a relationship like with the politician and his boyfriend, or it can start one like with, because I mean that's kind of like the bonding moment for Alana and Gary is that arrest, and then I guess the adrenaline of it all.
Character wise, I see the running motif or whatever. But
motif. So we got to talk about motifs.
We have to talk about motifs. I guess we should just get into it.
Yeah. All right.
So it must be remarked that Alana does not often wear a brassiere during the course of the movie.
It must be remarked that Alana does not wear a brassiere.
I believe that this is not a stylistic choice either in wardrobe or just aesthetic. I believe that this is an intentional artistic choice to have a motif of, I guess you could call it like motherhood abstractly, but like Gary is this child man, not a man-child, who has not a neglectful but a largely absent mother, and has not had a traditional childhood, latches on to any older woman who will give him the time of day, clearly wants a mommy. And seeing Alana topless is a very important goal of Gary's. And there's this really gross, not badly executed, but just gross in text scene where Alana's like sleeping on a waterbed next to Gary.
And he shinji's.
You can see his hand like eclipse her chest, but doesn't like actually touch her or anything. This is clearly very, very important to Gary, and I think that that's not a far-fetched thing to say.
Well, see, the thing is, I don't think that like the mother thing is far-fetched at all. But the I don't know if you just clarified it or not, but his belief is that the nipples are a motif in the movie.
Yes. They are.
I don't think the nipples are part of it. I think the nipples are just a part of the it's the 70s. People didn't wear bras all the time. She's a woman in her 20s in the 70s in California. Saying. It's hot, man. You're not wearing bras. I think it's just an aesthetic of the time. And the thing is, like I encourage readings like this, but I do think you're wrong.
Well, you more than I should know that every single detail in every single shot of a movie is 100% intentional, down to where the strands of hair are on an actor's head. There is no way that this wasn't consciously decided and thought through.
Sometimes the curtains are just blue.
Then why draw attention to the blue curtains?
I don't think particularly.
Why have the main character obsessed with the blue curtains?
I think he's obsessed with breasts, not necessarily nipples. I think.
Okay,
you're focused on nipples.
Let's zoom out a little bit and move to the whole chest. Then,
but I don't even think that like it's necessarily like outside of the scene on the bed and
Alana flashing him.
And Alana flashing him, like there's nothing about that, or at least like a specific obsession with, and there's no like further like I think a visual callback, because like I mean her nipples aren't very much a focus. I don't think whenever they're.
No, I mean, what do you mean by focus? Like
I mean, like I remember way back we had argued about this a long time ago.
It nearly came to blows.
But you were talking about how like in some of the shots, like her nipples are like the focus of the shot, and like that's not.
I'm not saying the camera's tracking her chest. I'm just saying
not what I'm
that
saying either. But like
they're very prominent.
Maybe only but that's just because she's not wearing a bra. Like that's just.
And I'm saying that they had that on purpose.
Yeah, they have that on purpose because it's in the 70s.
Oh my! You're not just putting these parts of the movie together.
I think you're crazy.
Gary is missing a mother. He is in between needing a mother and needing a girlfriend. So he wants a mommy girlfriend. Therefore, you know what? You know where the word mammal comes from? From boobies.
Right.
Like this is core. Not to be Freudian, but this is like core part of our development and desires. And it plays perfectly into this idea of a person caught between boy and man who feels like he needs something.
No, I definitely think the mother thing is there. I just don't think the nipples have anything to do with it. I don't think.
Why won't you take this one extra step? Why can't you? You're on an escalator and it's going there anyways. Why not just get there a little bit faster?
Because I think it's better to look at the nipples being in the movie as like those are just there because it's cool. I think at a certain point I have to turn my brain off. I can't.
Oh my god.
It means nothing. The curtains are blue.
I don't think we'll ever see eye to eye on this. I believe this so passionately.
I mean, at this point, I really just it's out of spite. But I don't know. Any real life person we've talked to about this agrees with me, except for Blake. But that means nothing. That means nothing.
So, what was your favorite vignette of all of these? Because they're very not so disjointed, but there's a lot of good ones.
My favorite is the one with I gotta look up the actress's name.
The recruitment.
Yes,
she was so weird
with Harriet Sansom Harris. She's also in Phantom Thread. She has which is the movie PTA made before this. We need to watch that at some point because it has a lot of similarities with this movie in terms of like portraying toxic relationships. But almost in an opposite way, where you have it's an age gap, but not in the same way. It's an age gap with like Leonardo DiCaprio and like women under the age of 25, where it's legal technically, but like it's weird.
Still weird.
But you have that kind of relationship with a man and a woman, where like she thinks she can fix them, but she sucks too. Whatever that type of thing. But Harriet Sansom Harris, she also does like a bit part in that movie, and she has a scene in this where she's like a casting director, agent, something.
Weirdest person in the entire world.
Coolest person in the entire world. She is so awesome. If like old women like her in this movie are like my favorite kind of people. Like, you're a real fighter, aren't you? Yeah, I know. I've seen it before. This type of shit.
English bulldog with sex appeal.
Yeah, she's great. So funny, and like, I think that scene's really touching too because that's like the only scene I think where Alana talks to like an adult woman. I think.
Yeah.
Like, and you have this moment.
Hey, it passes the Bechdel test.
Yeah, there you go. You have this moment though where they where it's like she sees Alana like I know because everybody else in the movie they do just look at her like a pretty face and like and because and she is a very lost person, like her whole family, well at least she projects that her whole family looks down on her and everything because of how lost she is, but like she doesn't really ever have anybody see her, she thinks, and that's why she's so drawn to Gary, is because like
he sees something in her.
Yeah, well, and they're in that like similar stage of life, but you have this woman that sees her for what she is, and she understands that like I know like you're fighting, you're trying to keep your head above the water, you're just as much a hustler as this guy is. You're playing your cards.
But I think on purpose it's very hard to believe the casting director because of how weird and sarcastic she comes off.
No, I don't know if she comes off as sarcastic. It's bizarre, sure, but I find it very I think the reason it's so bizarre, or the reason I read it as so bizarre, is because I read it as so earnest. Like I like she's just like taken by the spirit, almost, and like you're a fucking fighter, aren't you? Like she's so emotionally taken.
She's so into it
by this girl who can seemingly do it all. Yeah, Alana knows Krav Maga, which is anybody can do Krav Maga.
Is that like a kind of karate? She was so funny with that.
That's my favorite scene. What's yours?
I liked the John Peters one. We talked about that.
Yeah,
like you could argue that's the climax of the movie in a way, and then it ends in like a practical backing a truck down a windy hill,
like a Mission Impossible type car stunt. It's really fun.
It's like it's not visually. It's visually interesting because of the way it's shot, but like it's not a Mission Impossible type like explosion or anything, but like knowing what that would be like and how terrifying, and then knowing that happened in real life just really elevates it. Plus I just love John Peters and Gary's exchange and the weird relationship that they have with each other. he's just so intense, and he's and like Gary's kind of along for the ride. Like he's like John's like, oh, you got family? And Gary's like, yeah. You got any brothers, sisters? I got a brother. Older or younger? Younger. I'm gonna strangle your younger brother. Like
it's such a great moment.
John's like going crazy on him, but like Gary's giving him ammunition just to like see where it's going along, and it's just so interesting to me.
And talking about how the movie shot too, this is the second movie that Paul Thomas Anderson has been his own cinematographer for.
Oh, really?
Now he did have people do additional photography, and there's another guy with a cinematography credit on here, but I think he's the primary eye behind this movie and in Phantom Thread, which is really cool. So he's doing the writing, he's doing the directing, and he's doing cinematography. So he's really quite the auteur we have here.
Truly. What does Licorice Pizza mean?
I don't know. Like I guess to me it's just something that's so like it's if I were to eat licorice on pizza, it's something that is certainly disgusting. But I'm intrigued by it. There's an allure to it, and maybe it does work. It's like pineapple on pizza. I'm a fan. I like the sweetness and the the savoriness of the pizza. I don't know. Probably doesn't work. Maybe it does. We'll see. And much like the relationships in this movie, will probably be absolutely disgusting after a week in the fridge.
Yeah. I think that's the only really way you can define it. I don't know if there's any actual definition made by anyone involved in the production, but that's kind of my go-to.
I prefer the title Soggy Bottom.
Yeah, I was going to say, that was the working title, and that's like the name of his that's the working title of his waterbed company.
That becomes Fat Bernie's.
Right. Soggy Bottom, I don't know if I would have preferred it.
I would have. I remember when that title got announced as the working title, and I was like, I knew it wasn't going to be kept, but I wanted it to be kept so bad.
I couldn't tell people that I really like this movie about a groomer called Soggy Bottom. That sounds like
okay. Yeah, I like a movie about a groomer called Licorice Pizza. That's a bit more
palatable.
Yeah,
ironically. But no, God, I could watch this like over and over and over, despite all the gross stuff, despite all the controversies. Like I don't know why the Japanese stuff is there.
I don't know, just like piece of shit businessman type shit, and again, it just has a reflection of Gary.
Yeah, I mean, you're not supposed to think it's funny, other than like you're laughing at this guy for being racist.
But but it's shown like. It is shown in like the reaction of every single character around this guy.
Oh yeah.
Anytime this kind of shit is happening, that what he's doing is like wrong in the eyes of the characters.
Right. Like we're not supposed to be laughing with him. Nevertheless, I don't quite understand its necessity.
It is just kind of there. I don't know.
I mean, it's not like I'm not saying Paul Thomas Anderson's a racist, but it's just it raised something. An eyebrow.
No, I could just say that I love this movie over and over and over again.
There's only so many ways we can put that.
And I would recommend this, but like if you haven't seen any other Paul Thomas Anderson, I would recommend watching some others of his first before this. But I think this is a great movie. It's definitely one of the best movies of this decade so far, very early on in the decade.
Oh, easily.
Yeah, it's been out for 2 years. I've seen it 3 times. I'm gonna see it many, many more times throughout the rest of my life.
Ironically, like with Southland Tales, this grows on you with every subsequent watch.
And I figured out a new connection that is not deep throating or and the reason that deep throating is the connector between the two of these is that the movie Deep Throat is referenced in both. It's in an ad in Licorice Pizza, and then the neo-Marxists call themselves Deep Throat 2 in
wait, was it an ad in Licorice Pizza, or was it a news thing about the real life Deep Throat operation that happened with Watergate?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't read it. I just assumed it was. well, then maybe that's about. I don't know. The thing is, as the movie person, I don't know anything about this Watergate. When I hear Deep Throat, I think about the movie. So I don't know. That's for the audience.
I could have I could be wrong, but I could have sworn that Deep Throat was the real thing. In Licorice Pizza.
Another better connector for these two movies that I just now thought of is that these are both movies about straight up pimps.
Truly,
Gary and Boxer.
They are both pimps, and they don't commit suicide.
And they do not commit suicide. So yeah, I think that's the note that we should end on: is be a pimp and don't commit suicide. We love you and
good night.
And good night.